Welcome everyone to Immigrant Bazaar, a channel for immigrants by immigrants. And as usual, well, maybe a little unusual too, but your host today is myself, Anwar.
And my name is Bahram.
Shaukat.
There we go. That's the unusual part. We have three hosts today. Shaukat joined us today. And I probably need to give a little bit of background of what we're doing. We call this Afterthought session for the episode that was dedicated to preserving mental health or behavioral health. So what is this Afterthought session? First of all, we want to shout out to some of our subscribers, some of our listeners, especially John Marupov, who actually provided several suggestions. We also had several other comments and suggestions from our viewers. One of them was to shorten our episodes, so we're working on that. I think from now on, most of our episodes are not going to be as long as they've been. That's the first thing. The second thing, we were suggested, and we were thinking about it ourselves, to organize another episode that would be kind of a summary or our thoughts on the past episode. So we talked with Saad on behavioral health, right? But most of the time it was Q&A session, a lot of questions, a lot of answers, a lot of information, and it's kind of an overload for some of the listeners. So we thought, hey, how about we organize something shorter in length, and we share our thoughts, what we thought about the episode or even the topic itself. So this is not necessarily a summary of the last episode, but it is nevertheless our thoughts after the episode. So, for this occasion, we're very happy that our, as we call, best-end engineer, Shaukat, also joined us today. So he's usually on the sidelines, but he can provide feedback. He can tell us what we're doing wrong, or how we should improve. So I'll give the floor to him first. What did you think about the last episode?
Yeah, so I guess the topic of the episode itself was really an interesting topic, but a rare topic that's not chosen maybe, and not spoken much about. But this is really something that we really need to speak up about, that you have also pointed out. So bringing awareness maybe about the behavioral health issue overall. And for that reason, there was a definition within the episode itself, what the behavioral health issue is, foremost, right? And then the different aspects, like different parts of the behavioral health, like mental health, substance use disorder. So these were the parts of behavioral that were kind of part of the episode. So for myself, I would say that it was a beneficial episode. So I even started to question myself, if I have some of the symptoms, should I also be going to a doctor, maybe to get some treatment? But also I was thinking about, yes?
You have two kids. It would be understandable if you had to go to a doctor.
But I think that, first of all, being aware of these issues is one thing, but also maybe looking into what are the reasons that leads to these behavioral issues is another thing, so that we can go and maybe try to fix those things that lead, right? Preventing things is maybe easier than going and treating after the fact it has already occurred.
I think just to continue on your thought on my side, you mentioned about the being aware. I think also the other important part for immigrant communities is the fact that depending where you're coming from, some cultures may be very conservative, very follow on standards and norms, and those people who are suffering, whether it's substance use disorder or whether it's just having like anxiety or depression and stuff like that, I believe communities need to make sure that they understand everybody, family members do not have the stigma of being shy to tell the problem they have. They need to be able to, to share the problem if they feel like there is a problem, and or those people or parents watching the kids spouse watching, husband watching wife or wife seeing husband, if they notice something abnormal, I think it's important for everyone to make sure that they reach out to to specialists, to people who know what the problem is, so they can take care of that early on. Saad mentioned a great, a lot of statistics, and one of them was 1 out of 5 adults in the United States,
20%
one way or
almost,
another, 20% will in their lifetime in US will have some kind of mental health problems, whether it's anxiety, depression, or something related, in that. So for that reason, it's important that immigrants do not just stay shy and do not, think that it's something that oh yeah, it's going to go away by itself. It's something that needs to be taken care of, properly looked, especially all of us, like us having children, we need to make sure as our kids grow, we need to kind of keep them, be mindful of that and keep them on our radar of, staying healthy. So it's,
as you right, amazing about that 20%, right? This was really an astonishing number for myself. And when comparing, I started to compare, okay, what is the difference between US and our home country, right? Where the statistics should be much lower. So I thought of maybe the sense of belonging. We have different layers or a controlling mechanism, right? So it starts with your family, and then with your relatives, with your friends, and within your city itself, which is not as big as here in the US. In that sense, I mean, kids' substance abuse kind of things are really low in all Central Asian
I actually also feel like you're mentioning, in other traditional cultures, it seems like it's a little easier to connect with people. You're a little closer with your relatives. You spend more time outside. You socialize more. In more Western societies, more advanced societies, people sit on the phone for a long time. A lot of it is electronic. It's not very natural. So, I'm also curious, as you mentioned, what are the reasons? 20% is a huge number. We're talking about, I don't know how many adults there are. I guess 150, 200 million adults. But 20% of that is like, I don't know how many millions. It's like 40, 50 millions or more. So that's a huge number of people having these kind of issues. Maybe in other countries, like, I don't know, let's say in India or some China, there's a huge portion of the population that works hard. They don't have enough time to think about these things. They're just very busy at work. So maybe some of these issues go undiagnosed in other countries. That's why in the US it's diagnosed. So
probably the data may not be, or the data may not be readily available to kind of measure that. So like personally looking in the countries we were born, even Russia, the countries next to us, not everybody has, we look at remote areas, not everybody has the doctors have the system where they track all the patients, what kind of diagnosis they don't have a computer to kind of note, okay, this guy came for this guy came for that. So obviously US has that, and it may show that things are not as great as in other countries, but that does not mean it's bad here. It means that it's something that we just need to be mindful of, and we need to make sure that immigrant communities who immigrate here, they also one way or another they may deal with that directly through their own families or extended families. So it's something that we all have to be careful and properly analyze.
And just to add to that, the other countries might be moving in this direction too. We in the age of information, the cell phones are everywhere in the world now. It's not, a Western thing anymore. So, this bombardment of information, our brains may not be, dealing with it very well. And with, less connection with other people, there's more feeling of isolation, and then you go to social media because you feel you're isolated, and it's just a vicious cycle like that. So in general, I think it was a great episode. I personally learned a lot. I didn't know about substance abuse not being an encouraged terminology. They use substance use disorder because it's a disorder. How we name things actually matters a lot. Because you think substance abuse, someone unfortunately is on heroin or something really bad. They might want to get out of it. They made that mistake. They regret it, but it's like a disorder. The withdrawals are too strong. They can't really help. So that's one big thing that I learned. The stigma. I think Bahram, you mentioned, not being too shy about these things. So that's one thing that I definitely learned, or I appreciated more, let's say, after this episode. And the second thing is the substance abuse, because I always use substance abuse, to be honest. I never thought that this is not like, an appropriate term.
Just a big deal here.
And then there was, as you remember, there was another, like, I think I asked this question at the same time when we were shooting that episode. There was going to be elections, or it was right after election, I'm not sure. But a lot of states opened up for legal recreational marijuana.
Yeah.
I think Oregon or Washington, they even allowed legalized heroin, like in small amounts, if not selling, but even using. So I think, I asked Todd that question. He didn't really answer, because I don't think anyone can really answer that question very well, because it's very complicated. On one side, there's a huge number of people, they say that, it's okay to use it for fun, recreational marijuana, we're stressful, we want to have fun, we use alcohol, why not this, So there's this. On the other hand, there's people dying of overdoses. So, I'm an immigrant, I feel like I'm a part of this community, but I have a different roots, right? I'm kind of an outsider too, a little bit. Looking from a side, I don't understand, like, what are they trying to do?
When we were talking, I believe Saad also, we had a conversation about the insurance, importance of insurance, like the matter of, I think 11% of the people here don't have any insurance, especially. So it's good it's important for immigrants, not necessarily just to deal with behavioral health, but in general to have insurance. We plan to have an episode separately about healthcare, how to get insurance and stuff like that. We're going to have that. But just remember to have insurance, because without health insurance in this country, either you pay through your employer or you get it from the government through subsidies and stuff. You need to have health insurance. Without it, you're going to be in deep financial trouble. So just keep that in mind.
I would just say that, yes, I don't want this to be turned into another episode, right?
it has actually turned.
This is a really interesting topic, but still a lot to talk about. Yes.
Yeah, but one thing, I'm personally looking forward to insurance, an episode about insurance companies, because medical system here is very different, like even from Europe or Russia or other places, very, very different. So I need to learn that myself. I've been kind of lucky to have insurance through employment. Most of Americans, I think, have that, but then there's so many unexpected bills. I supposedly I have a very good insurance, but I still, like, when I look at my yearly expenditures, I still spend quite a bit.
Maybe I'll become a host and guest at the same time. Maybe I'll just do it.
There we go. Add a link to your insurance company and get a commission.
Not doing that. So, anyways, I think
That's a separate episode.
We're gonna call it a wrap here, right? So I think we're all set here. So listeners, viewers, speaker, whoever is watching us on YouTube or listening on podcast, please continue to do so. Facebook is we have a page on Facebook, Instagram. Continue to give us your comments, subscribe, provide your feedback through immigrantbazaar@gmail.com. That's our email address, where you can provide your you can share the episodes you would like to. We'll try to invite people who know, this is not specifically about medical or political or economic. It's anything, right, that helps immigrants. So our goal is to make sure this is fun and beneficial. So please continue to be in touch with us, and we thank you very much for listening to this episode, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Take care.